Finance, Budget, and Audit Committee. So on the agenda today, we had city finances. First, I want to welcome all of you all. I know we've met as a committee as a whole. We haven't met as often as Finance Committee this year, so we're going to try to get back into that rhythm. So city finances is the first one on the agenda. Essentially, we're just going to kind of review some of the year-to-date financial reports. For anybody that's at home, I've posted the reports that we're going to be looking at on a Dropbox link, and I put it on some of the political discussion groups online. So if you're on one of those Facebook groups, you're welcome to get those. I don't have a good way at this point to post them elsewhere but Facebook, so probably something I need to work on, but it is out there right now. So one of the items is we have a letter from, asked basically the city auditor. Oh, yes, Leslie.
I think I have a recommendation.
Yeah, let's hear it.
And it's actually a question for Mr. Clark. Can hyperlinks be added to community calendar events? Mm-hmm. So I think what we could do is the Dropbox link could go into the community calendar postings of whether it's our Google Calendar on Norwood, Ohio Council, OH Council, or to events on the Norwood Star.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. So I will get those to you, in a timely fashion next time. And so, like I said, yeah, so we have a letter from the auditor. He could not be here today just due to scheduling conflicts, but he did kind of just give us a summary of kind of what's going on right now. So we'll read that and move forward. Members of Finance Committee. Each member of City Council and department heads should be receiving the financial monthly closeout documents generated from the auditor's office. If you are not receiving these, please contact Kelly Brown in my office to be added to the list. A letter was sent to City Council requesting official recognition of the receipt of these documents as recommended in the report on accounting methods. Work continues on the update to the fiscal emergency plan. We have had meetings with the mayor and the state auditors and are moving forward in an agreed upon direction. Many hours have gone into detailed preparation of this update. The month of February closed with a general fund cash balance of $1,926,496, with an unencumbered balance of negative $1,712,402. The negative amount is due to the large amount of purchase orders processed for the entire year, and it is not unusual to be that negative for this early in the year. Official general fund year-to-date revenue is $3,311,656. Earnings tax is the largest general fund revenue source with year-to-date deposits of $1,226,690, which is $85,477 over predicted, though it is still very early in the year. Significant year-to-date revenue over February 2018 is noted in the interest earned key, 01000488710, and that's $20,907, which has had no revenue for the past several years prior to the end of 2018. I have attached a series of charts that are generated monthly for the general fund. These are to be used as a visual reference in our unaudited totals. The statement of cash position is included in your month-end reports. This presents month-to-date and year-to-date revenue and expenses for all funds. Fund 48 had significant revenue not anticipated as of January 1st, 2019. This is reflected in the changes to the Certificate of Estimated Resources. The Certificate of Estimated Resources has been updated to reflect new revenue estimates and annual receipts. This is being considered for approval by the County Budget Commission at their next hearing. There are some funds which will require adjustments of their appropriations to reflect these certificate changes. These are planned to be presented upon the adoption of the new fiscal emergency plan. The updated Certificate of Estimated Resources does show the water fund as being over-appropriated. This will be adjusted with the passage of the revised appropriations after the passage of the fiscal emergency plan. February closed with the water fund cash balance as negative $593,855. The state auditor is continuing to evaluate this fund to determine its deficiency, which has expenses exceeding its revenues. The largest expense in the water fund is the water bill paid to Cincinnati, which is year-to-date expense of $901,809. The auditor's office has been preparing written procedures as recommended by the report on accounting methods and other operational concerns. These are the first steps towards the creation of a citywide policy and procedures manual. City Council should be considering the passage of a resolution to adopt a credit card policy for the city. This is required due to a new Ohio law passed in November 2018. A credit card is required to pay certain health and fire department online fees relating to their respective drug licenses. It is intended to only be used for such restricted purposes and not used for general purposes. This is a time-sensitive issue as there are licenses due later this month. The law department has been working on this for a few months due to changes in the law. It has taken time to prepare correctly. Please consider passing this resolution. I hope you find this information useful. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call the auditor's office. Sincerely, Jim Stith, Auditor.
Quick question, sir.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Your second page, I may not have heard you correctly, but did you say the water fund balance was negative
Yes.
593?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll, yeah.
So you added that word right there, because that's not there. Okay.
Oh, okay, yes. So it is, yeah, what he was writing in there is, let's see here.
February
Yes, yes.
February closed with the water fund cash balance at 593.
Okay, yeah, I think he,
855.
yeah, it is, well, the way that it's written will imply that it's negative. So it could be,
Okay.
yeah,
But that is negative.
it is negative,
Thank
yes,
you.
sir.
I thought I heard that. I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. There is like one correction on here. The general fund earnings tax. It says year-to-date deposits of $1,226,000. It's actually that's how much the deposits were for February. Year-to-date deposits for the general fund are going to be $2,929,508.
508.
508. Yep,
So the 1.2 was February only.
that is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
The,
Go ahead. Yeah.
the visuals that are here, I think this is the cover sheet for the certificate, and then behind it are the individual numbers that roll up. Is that how this works?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think he's ever given us this before
Yeah, I'm trying.
in full. I think we've just seen like a page or two.
Yeah, it'll be good, and it looks similar to what the tax budget looks like that we
That's
got.
what I
And he kind of updates this behind. I mean, there's a lot of work that he does behind the scenes. However, it's going to be good for us in the future to review these more often. But essentially, yeah, he sends them to the county auditor, and then they will actually determine if the estimated resources that we are estimating are appropriate, and then that allows us to actually appropriate funds.
Okay.
Just to add to that, I think Mr. Stiff, I think he told me he spent 60 hours on this. I forget. Did he tell you that? It was quite significant.
He has spent a lot of time on the financial recovery plan.
Okay.
And because essentially he's got to create a whole new form. I mean, there's a lot of Excel creation in it to help him to estimate what the expenses are going to be over the next 5 years. And so it is a lot of work, and I have no doubt that he's spent that much time on it so far.
Yeah. I just thought it would be worth mentioning.
Yeah.
Again.
It's a pretty...
Perfect.
The auditor's office is a pretty thankless job, I would say, because it's, if there's not enough money in a fund, or not enough money in a key to like spend, departments are like, they get frustrated with him when it's, the department heads they have to know their budget to know, what we started with and
Yes, sir.
where they should be at.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's a great point. Okay, so he did mention a couple of things in the letter I think it's just good to highlight. He talked about the credit card policy that the city council's got on their agenda tonight. And so this policy's, again, it kind of mentioned it in here, but just due to some requirements to have to use a credit card to pay certain fees either at the state or whoever the state's contracted with that we have to pay the fees to for some of our drug licenses. And to me, it is like absolutely insane that somebody at the state, whatever department this is requiring cities that have health departments, I guess, and fire departments, because they're having to deal with it too, but to pay via credit card. And so That's kind of where it's at. I mean, the law directors pushed back, the city auditors pushed back, like, do we have to do it? And in previous years, actually, many of the department, like there's been people in the departments that have actually put it on in order to allow this to happen because we didn't have a credit card policy. They've actually done it themselves and just gotten reimbursed from the city. They took the risk to like put some of these fees on their own card, hoping that the city would be able to reimburse them. I mean, the city did, but
Sure.
it's still something that me as an employee at my company, I'm not necessarily, I may not do that, you know, if my company were in some of the financial conditions that our city is in. So anyways, that's just, it's very interesting. But that's going to be asked to be passed tonight. There is a letter that's from Dr. Perino, who is our long-term interim health commissioner, and that kind of explains it why. And the fire department has a similar issue. I didn't reach out to them to get a letter from them, but
Did we get those? Did we get that letter from Mr. Perino?
it should be
Okay.
on your desk here
Okay, thank
somewhere.
you.
So it'll say Norwood City Health Department at the top.
Okay, I thought
So
that. Thank you.
yeah. And if not, we'll get you a copy before the council meeting.
I got it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, gotcha. Excellent. Okay, so another thing that was mentioned here is the fiscal emergency plan. So at this point, the way that yes.
Hi, just to summarize, I would like to express my support of the policy being adopted. I didn't know if you wanted to wrap up at the end.
Oh yeah, no,
before
actually
I
no.
report
Go
out,
ahead, throw it,
but,
yeah, throw it out there.
We're talking about the credit card.
The credit card, yeah,
Okay.
before we switch topics. The credit card policy that we've been asked to consider, I think it makes sense. I mean, we're complying with what the state has asked. It's already been discussed with the state auditors, so I don't see any challenge with us reporting out to all of council's support for the resolution that's on the agenda.
Yeah.
So, I feel the same way. I do have one question, concern. What's a credit card, meaning we put the money on the credit card. Is it a debit card? Can we do a debit card to come out of the general fund, or how does that work? I mean, do we attach that to a bank account, or do we actually build funds on this credit card and then pay it off at the end of the month?
Yeah.
Or can that be attached to some bank account?
It's a great question, Mr. Braden, and it's the question was asked. I'll give you two tidbits here. The question was asked about the debit card. Like, can it just be a debit card that's somehow attached? And that is no. It has to be a credit card, and I'm not sure.
Right.
Don't ask
Some
me
rule.
why.
I understand.
And the second one is, that was asked. Cool. Could we just buy a Visa gift card or something? Like. I know it's terrible. Trust me, it wasn't me that asked the question, but it was asked.
That's innovative.
Yeah, can you get a Visa gift card for the exact amount and allow them to pay it that way? And then the financial supervisors were shot that down too. So before it got to me, all these questions were asked. So
That's too bad, because you could get those for pennies on the dollar, right?
oh my god, I don't know.
Anyway, just
That's
anyway,
hilarious.
move on.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So no, yeah, but like they've tried so many different ways, and they're literally only taking it through the credit card. And so in the policy it says that it's only for fees that are, and you'll see it in the resolution
Okay.
or the ordinance. It's only for fees.
Resolution.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. It is only for fees that are unable to be paid any other way. And the city treasurer's office is going to be the keeper of the card, so they'll hold it in the vault, I guess, and
Okay.
until it's needed.
I'm okay with. I support this.
Yeah.
Just to get it on the record, the health department has pending payment due March 31st, which is for a pharmacy license, and April 11th, which is to Medicaid. So these are for licenses or certifications that otherwise would be expiring, which will probably be reiterated at the council meeting. But just for our discussion as well, wanted to note that that's what it's for.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other items that you mentioned, talked about the fiscal emergency plan. So currently the auditor is working with right now it's in the hands of the financial supervisors who are reviewing it. Once that's done, the mayor and the city auditor have been working together to kind of craft it to make sure it kind of reflects the administration's priorities when it's presented to us. The financial supervisors are reviewing it, and I anticipate next week at some point it should be ready or close to ready. So we'll probably talk about the council meeting when we might want to schedule a special committee of the whole meeting to receive it and have any discussions about it that we want to have. So we do have to pass it though by March 31st. per kind of our obligations to the Financial, Recovery and Supervision Commission. So that'll be, we have limited time to get it done, but it's not necessarily our fault that it's not done. There's just a lot of work that's been happening behind the scenes to get us there. Okay, cool, excellent. So we've got the letter there. So that is that. The reports that we have. So, like I said, I posted them online and shared a link to some of the Facebook groups that are out there. And in the future, we'll get them to we're going to get them on the Clerk of Council's website, on the Finance Committee calendar, and then we'll also get them to Mr. Clark for the Norwood Star to get them on that. So the order that they're in, number 1 is the bank report. Number 2 is the statement of cash position. Number 3 is the revenue report. Number 4 is the expense report, current year only. And then number 5 is the non-sufficient funds report. So all 5 of those are on that Dropbox link. So we're actually going to start with number 2, and that's the statement of cash position. Here we go. So this is essentially just the report that has for all of our funds. So most of the time when we talk about things, we talk about the general fund. The general fund is where most of the funds that the city has are kept, and that's where most of the revenue comes in and is spent. And those are just revenues that don't have specific obligations. And then we use other funds, which we have like 60 or so, or 70 of them. We use other funds that have for revenues that do have special obligations. Sometimes some of these funds are currently getting revenue in them. Some of them just have gotten revenue in the past, and we've kept the fund there because we have to document, that we got revenue in the past for whatever reason. So we'll just kind of highlight just a few of these. So the general fund, you'll see that we had month-to-date receipts of $1.4 million, so $1,411,000, and then year-to-date receipts of $3,311,000. There was disbursements out of the general fund is 1.9 million month-to-date, and then 3.3 million year-to-date. And as the auditor said in the letter, it's not uncommon to have such high disbursements so early in the year, just because the departments have gotten new appropriations. So things that they might have pushed off until the beginning of the year, they went ahead and took care of some of those kind of issues that might have come up. So, like I said, not uncommon at all. You'll see the outstanding encumbrance there of $3.6 million. And so as some of the purchase orders that the departments have submitted, so like, for example, Mr. Gears always submits purchase orders usually like for, like some blanket purchase orders at the beginning of the year to make sure he's got the money kind of carved out that he's going to need for whatever the uses that he has. You'll see that number that 3.6 million will probably start to kind of gradually go down as we spend more, just as the city normally does as we go throughout. So you'll see that, like I said, the encumbered balance would be, ending balance would be $1.7 million in the negative, but again, that's pretty normal at this point. For the street maintenance and repair fund, so we've had total year-to-date $97,819, and we've spent $16,000. Part of the beginning balance, by the way, in that fund too was $553,000. So the way we constructed the plan last year was, until we had a specific idea of what we wanted to spend the street money on, we decided not to appropriate it. So that has kind of caused some issues, because once the street fund started building up revenue throughout the year, we weren't able to spend it on actually getting some of the streets fixed. So as soon as this financial recovery plan is done, we'll be able to unleash the power of those funds, if you will, and start getting a couple of streets paved that need to get paved.
Good wording, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good.
Yes. So anyway, so we expect this year between the beginning balance and then what we've received so far, the current balance in that fund unexpended is $613,000. The State Highway Improvement Fund, this one we started with $28,000. And by the way, the street fund, we get just revenues from various state sources. We'll talk about that in the revenue fund, the revenue report, and I'll mention the State Highway Fund as well. But that one, again, is just money that we can use on streets or other kind of street type uses. I think it's slightly more flexible, but it has to be used for the state highways in the city. And then the permissive tax fund, that's $141,000 that we started with. We have year-to-date revenue of $18,000 there. That's just another fund that we can use for streets and usually stuff like that. So all of those we get money from either gas taxes or your vehicle license taxes. There's just various methods that the state kind of funnels a little bit of money, some pennies to us, to be able to work on our streets. So the next one just wanted to highlight is the water fund. It's Fund 50. It'd be at the bottom of that first page of the statement of cash position. We started the year beginning balance at 147,000 in the negative. So the issue with this fund is that the billing cycles don't always line up to our fiscal year. So for this one here, for example, I think we had a big water bill payment due on like January 2nd or January 3rd. So we started the year with 147,000 in negative, but then that was only because the billing cycle that we were just about to pay, a multi-$100,000 bill. But at this point, the unexpended balance in that fund as of the 28th of February was $593,855. So, we've talked to the financial supervisors, like the auditor has, and they are looking into, and they're getting ready to do a very detailed analysis about what's going on with the water fund. And, we've talked about it in the past. I still don't know if us operating our own water department is truly the best for our citizens and the best value for the citizens. But I think that we'll likely learn a little bit more about that once the state auditors have finished looking at that. So on the next page, the sewerage fund. So this is one that we constantly have to watch because there's a pretty large balance in the sewer fund. So, we began the year with $3,245,000, and that had accumulated over many, many years, way before any of us got elected, and it kept accumulating. Last year, it seemed to plateau, so it kept going up maybe about $300,000 a year or so. Last year, it seemed to plateau, so it seems to still be staying steady right around that 3.2, 3.3 million range. It's just something that we'll want to watch throughout the year, as we kind of keep going. And everything that comes in that fund we should only be receiving things in that fund that we are going to be sending right back out to MSD. And you want some you want some cushion in that, but definitely the $3.2 million is too much. And so the financial supervisors are also looking at that and will hopefully provide recommendations to us at some point. Okay, so that looks good there. Are there any other funds that you all wanted to highlight or we needed to talk about? I'll mention really quick the Stormwater Management Fund, Fund 62. So that one has a negative balance right now of $66,315. We get revenue that's from property. There's a fee that goes on property taxes based on some formula. So residents pay less than like businesses do with like a large footprints. And most residents, I think, pay like $4 or something it's either per year or per property tax bill, but it's not very much compared to, I have an apartment building in the city of Cincinnati, and there's like 5 or 6 times the amount that they charge for the stormwater management fee. So, and they're able to do a lot more stormwater management there in order to, like, when you have places like Maple Avenue and Elm Avenue where you've got just massive flooding, they're able to get it fixed there because they do charge more. But I'm not advocating that we should raise it, but just kind of letting you all know that's in the negative because we'll start receiving those funds as we get property tax bills in from the county auditor. Okay, so cool. So I think that's good there. The next report that we'll look at is the revenue report. Okay, so the revenue report, as we talked about, as the auditor mentioned, we've got earnings taxes that are pretty much right in line with what we were expecting to be at this point. So you'll see actually at the top of the revenue report it says target percent, and it'll say 16.66%. This report was run as of 2/28/19. So if any specific source of revenue, if it was constant every single month, it was just the same per month, spread out throughout the month, we should be, if we were on target, we'll be at 16.66%, essentially, is what that's saying. Because if you do 2 months divided by 12, that's what that equals. However, not all of these revenues are going to come in at the same time. Some of them come in, we get a lot of revenue really early. Some of them we don't get any revenue early, like we'll get them in the middle of the year. So just kind of know that as we kind of look at that. So it's not necessarily a bad thing if something's under the 17% or so, and it's not necessarily a good thing if it's over, if it's a revenue that might, come in at odd times throughout the year. So the earnings tax, though, we're at 17% of what was forecasted in the financial recovery plan. One item to note is that the earnings tax revenue in this report does not include Fund 89, which would be the revenue that the earnings tax agreements that we have with Paycor, CDK Global, Construct Connect now, and then the newest one, which is a lot smaller, but for TriHealth. And so with that, we would then, if you were to look at total revenue, you would add the Fund 89 revenue plus that. However, when we do the financial recovery plan, the state says in that plan you have to book the revenue in the general fund in the plan. So when we kind of start going back and forth looking in our financial reports and looking in the financial recovery plan, there's always going to be a little bit of discrepancy because the state wants those funds that we do pay out later to go in the general fund, well, to look like they're in the general fund, even though there's going to be a line item at the end that'll say like earnings tax refund that we'll take them back out. But you won't see that here. Here it'll all be in Fund 89. So earnings tax revenue, again, 17%. The birth and death records revenue there, we're at 20% of 20% of what we thought we would do for the year. And that's essentially just people that go into our health department to get copies of their birth certificate and their death record. And anytime people say, oh, maybe we should get rid of the health department, well, you're getting rid of that revenue because you have to be a health department in order to get that revenue. So just know for the year we expect to get $48,000 just in birth and death record revenue. And so it's pretty kind of exciting to have that. The next item I want to note is the food service licenses. So that one for the year, $72,950 is what we thought we'd be getting for the year. We're already at 89% of what we thought we would collect. So we've already collected $65,248, and that's essentially because I think a lot of those food licenses are front-ended. People pay them earlier. So I'm sure there's people that are still behind on their licenses, and there'll still be new businesses that could be opening up. So that I'm sure we'll get to the 100%. The next item to note is the building permits. It's the second from the bottom, 48280. That one we've estimated that we'd get $340,000 for the year. Last year it was over $600,000 just due to some major construction projects that were starting, because you pay your building permits, you pay your building fees at the very start of the project. So Xavier's Health United building, I think, was a major contributor to that. This year, though, so far, year to date, we've only received $22,328. So that's only 7%. It's probably expected because I think a lot of work happens during the summertime when it comes to like renovation work and other kind of just permits and fees that would get pulled. So I think we're still good on that, but just something that we should probably watch to make sure that it's getting hit.
Not going over the chicken coop.
We're not going to go over chicken coop. If you want to, we can do. I love it. Yeah. So no revenue there yet. 375 expected over there.
Thanks for that.
Yeah. No. But the barbershop licenses.
That's pretty.
But that's what we do. Like this revenue report has all of these kind of little small things segmented out. So I mean, you can even see how much we get from parking meters. For the year too.
The
It'll all
football license was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the intent of that ever was, or what it used to be for, but the next item so then if we look at the end of licenses and permits, so it's at the very top of that second page of the revenue report, you'll say total 82 licenses and permits. You'll see that we're at 21% so far collected, so it seems like we're at a good place for that. And then if you look at percent collected for intergovernmental revenue, that you see that we're only at 3% of where we would expect to be if the revenue was flat every single month. And that's just because the intergovernmental revenue comes from the state, and so the state just disperses that revenue at just certain times of the year, and so we just haven't received that at this point. Fines and forfeitures, that's the next one I would say that we should note. That's on page 3, about a third of the way down. That one we're at 23% of the year. But one thing I want to note is that the fines and forfeitures, we expect to get revenue of $169,000 throughout the year. And that is let's see here, that is only 0.75% of our total general fund expected revenue. So when people say, oh, the city of Norwood is charging, they're always trying to fine us, they're always trying to whatever, it's less than 1% of our total revenue is fines and forfeitures. So, and a lot of that, essentially that's about what it costs to run the clerk of court's office. And so if we weren't having people sent here, and maybe we were just, it would be sending everything that we cited down to this county, there would be a lot more cost for court costs for like our officers to have to come and attend. But then it'd also be a lot more inconvenient for our residents to have to always go down to the county whenever there's anything that has to do with mayor's court. So we just barely get enough revenue for the fines and forfeitures to cover mayor's court. Okay, the next one I want to highlight is what is the same thing that Mr. Sith highlighted. It's 48,710, about halfway down, interest earned. And for that, we're expecting this year to get $134,000 in revenue from interest, and that's a very new thing. The city treasurer has figured out, along with the financial supervisor. Well, the city treasurer's worked with the financial supervisors essentially to figure out how to use these like different Star Ohio accounts so that we can, excuse me, get revenue in very safe ways that doesn't put the residents at risk or any of the treasury at risk. And so we've already received $20,000 this year in interest earned. So we're at 16% of what the estimate was of the full year, so we're right on track there. Okay, so that's, one more thing. So on the page 4, again, this is where you can kind of look at the street fund revenue. So you'll see here about halfway down page 4, the gasoline excise tax and motor vehicle registration. We're at 17% so far this year, and after 2 months, it's right where it needs to be. And then again, we see some interest in there. Okay. I didn't have any other items that I was going to note on the revenue report. Are there any questions that we have that? Okay. Okay, awesome. So the next item would be the expense account current year only. It's the largest of the documents. We're not going to necessarily go through this at this point. Just want to note and actually throw out kind of an idea that Councilwoman Stevenson has. Potentially to kind of split up, I guess, some of our review of the budget so that we don't necessarily every month each of us has to go through detailed line by line and maybe go and track down what's going on. Potentially we can split it up a little bit and at least have some areas of responsibility. So when we come here to review them each month, we can have, it'll be easier for us to kind of have our specialty areas, and we can all then talk about what we're seeing kind of in the report for those areas. So I don't exactly know how I want to split this up yet, so I'm going to work on that, but is that something that y'all might be willing to do if we...
Sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I mean, happy to help any way I can with that. If there's questions or anything in the meantime before we would have a finance committee meeting. Did you have some comments, Leslie?
Thank you. The idea is really just to do a better job auditing, and I think if we have kind of a portfolio, if you will, of funds and accounts that we're more mindful of, we could become more familiar. And so just trying to share a little more ownership for how things are read and interpreted, but also give us a little bit more flexibility in terms of how much time we're spending to prepare, especially reviewing the expense account.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. In this expense account, current year only, when we get the new accounting software, this is going to be so much more improved because we'll be able to customize this much better to actually reflect what we need to be seeing. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, not necessarily unnecessary lines, but when you're trying to look for oddities, it's a lot of clutter, right? So, excuse me, this report needs to be available, but it doesn't necessarily need to look like this when we're doing kind of our overall reviews. Okay, the last item would be the non-sufficient funds report. So basically, any purchase order that was submitted to the auditor's office that does not have sufficient funds to cover it gets listed on this report. And it actually gets updated almost daily, I think. And so it can be pulled at any point throughout the month. But this is for the end of February. And so you'll just see here anything that's, essentially anything on here that you'll see is things that, and it could be that somebody put the wrong fund name or put the wrong fund number or key number or other things like that. But some of it also is just that we need to appropriate more funds and get more funds to those. Does anybody have any questions kind of about that or any items you want to note on that?
I just have one. So I see that there's a then and now per, it looks like the auditor for the Cincinnati USA Regional Chamber 2019 membership. Is this saying that a then and now is being drafted? Is that how I should read that? Or that is the request that we should anticipate?
Yeah, so if essentially it looks like it's a recurring expenditure that the Safety Service that's incurred every year. If a then and now is under $3,000, it doesn't have to come to council. The auditor can approve the approval of it. If it's over though, then we have to deal with that.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Are there any other items of note that we wanted to cover that you all have for us to cover at this meeting? Okay. Yeah, I will reach out to you all, not via text message, to find out when we want to schedule another, like the next meeting. So I'm going to try to do these. We'll try to do these once a month to kind of review the financial stuff. We'll try to have the city auditor here when we can, but schedules kind of prevented that in January and February. But we're not going to stop and wait for that in the future. So we'll just make sure we meet once a month, no matter what. Excuse me. Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn. And I want to thank you all for being here.
Thanks.